Hi everybody, I'm Chef Nick, and today let's make one of my favorite winter dishes, spiced acorn squash. And yes, the answer is no matter how much butter we put on it, it's still healthy. It's a vegetable. So to make our spiced acorn squash, we got to start out with our spice blend. So in the bowl already, I've got 3 tablespoons each ground cinnamon and ground coriander. The coriander is going to give it a nice bright citrusy type note while still being slightly peppery. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of nutmeg, 1 teaspoon of cumin, a half teaspoon of black pepper, freshly grated, a 1/4 teaspoon of cayenne pepper, and this is just going to give it a little bit of zip, but there will be enough sugar and other stuff going on in the dish. It's not going to make it too hot. And then we're going to add 2 teaspoons of kosher salt. This is going to help kind of make everything blossom together. And because this is YouTube and I want to be taken seriously, tiny whisk. All right, and that made more than we're going to need for this application, but throw it in a jar, it'll keep for months. Prepping and cutting our acorn squash is probably the most difficult part about this recipe. Obviously, the farmer's market and the grocery store aren't going to wash them, so give them a good wash. I recommend, if you are going to store them in the fridge, let them come up to room temperature for an hour or 2. It's going to make your life a little bit easier. If you've got any stems on there, these don't, you can usually just take the spine of the knife, the dull, the backside, just knock those right off. That'll give you a nice, even, sturdy surface for you to cut on. And then just from the tip with your biggest, sturdiest, most badass big boy knife, just pound it down all the way through. Nice, clean, even cut. We want that to be as even and smooth as possible so we get a good crust on it. Now I'm just going to take out a spoon and get the guts on out of here. And there you go. Oven is preheating to 400 degrees Fahrenheit. So what we're going to do is we're going to brush these down with our clarified butter. We don't want to use whole butter at this point. We don't want that browning action. We want all of our color to be coming from the spice. And you'll see here on the squash, we'll have like a thick bit at the stem and it's going to be a bit thinner at the tip. So when we bake, we are going to put the tips together towards the center, just so that, more heat, from the outside cooking in this way, so that way the outsides will get cooked the same as the inside. So what we're going to do is we're just going to brush this down. Be generous with the clarified butter. And then don't be stingy with the spice. All right, and then as said, we'll flip that over so the tip is pointing in. And then we're going to brush the back side as well. We're not going to eat it, but we want that oil to act as a heat transfer medium from the hot air in the oven into the shell. I'm going to get these prepped up, and then as soon as the oven is ready, we will be baking. Oven is preheated. Everything is nice and glossy, well buttered. We're going to bake this cut side down. And what that's going to do is it's going to allow us to get a real nice crust from the heat transfer from the pan into the squash. And what that's going to do is going to give us that crust that's going to give us structure. And then gives that Maillard reaction so that we can actually use this as a bowl. We're not going to put soup in there, but we're going to put butter, we're going to put brown sugar, we're going to put some nuts in there for service. These are little guys. We're going to check them after about 25 minutes. If they were bigger, obviously they'd take longer. Timer just went off. Let's go ahead and check on our squash. Hear that sizzle. Look at that color on there. All right, we're going to want to check for doneness at the thickest part of the biggest guy. And you don't want to go all the way through. There we go. These are actually all really nice and soft. And what we are going to do is we're just going to grab one, we're going to flip it over. Take a look at this. You get that nice brown ring all the way around the outside where it was in contact with the pan. Can do that to all of them. All right, so at this point, you can either stop, chill them down, and then reheat these as needed. There's so much moisture in these, they're gonna microwave great. But what we're gonna do to finish up is we are going to take a good sized pinch of brown sugar right in there, and then about a tablespoon or a good sized pat of butter, and that's gonna go back in the oven just for like 3 or 4 minutes to melt. Been in the oven for about 3 more minutes. Nice and soft. You can see the melted butter in there. You can see the sugar. You see that spice. What we're gonna do is we're just gonna garnish this with a little bit of toasted almond. Give it some crunch. Give that butter some place to go. And voila. I'm gonna give this a minute to cool down before I stick it in my face hole. And here it is. Not gorgeous by itself, but simple, hearty, spicy. I'm gonna go ahead and grab a bite. All right, so you'll see here. So to get this out, really just kind of scrape it from the outside shell in towards the middle so it has a chance to soak up that butter and brown sugar. Got some almonds in there, so you know, a little bit of everything in this first bite. Sweet, buttery, crunch from the almond, the cinnamon, the coriander, everything's working really well together without it being, you know, pumpkin pie spice or apple pie spice. It is its own thing. It's gonna be great with just about anything else I put on a plate, you know, whether it's roasted chicken or turkey at Thanksgiving or, you know, maybe a little prime rib dinner on New Year's Eve. All right, so there it is, our spice roasted acorn squash. Thank you for watching, and we will see you on the next one.